Hello and welcome to the StartupBREW Fargo podcast. StartupBREW is a weekly event hosted by Emerging Prairie in downtown Fargo, where we believe that entrepreneurship is energized over brews. Each week, we bring entrepreneurs, founders, and innovators together because we believe they succeed when they have access to each other and the community that supports them. This week, we welcome John Mascoe, founder of Leaftech Egg, and Michael Lynch, co-founder of Chonex. We're going to kick today off with John, who is an agronomist and animal nutritionist with over 25 years of experience in agronomy and precision egg technology. He's been part of 3 successful egg technology startups, and John has spent his career focusing on remote data, modeling, and simplifying the utilization of multiple data sources for improved crop production, sustainability, profitability, and industry adoption. Let's listen in to learn more from John.
Thank you very much for inviting us here to talk today. You just gave my two-minute elevator pitch, so I think we're done a little bit. But I'm John Mascoe. We're from East Central Indiana. I guess I got a multiple personality, but we're from East Central Indiana, and I talk about I was asked to talk about what brought me here, what we're doing, and what got us in the industry. And some of the things that drive us a little bit is that we have an agricultural background. We have a multi-generational farming operation at home, and that's been kind of cool to bring our kids up into that. And that, if you want to look at that family generational business is kind of what has driven our ability and our direction in growing our company and bringing that online. From a background standpoint, in the late 70s, early 80s, whoever went through the agricultural fun times, as they say, 26% interest and that type of thing, it became a reality that myself and my brother-in-law would not be able to come back to the farm and actually farm and do the farm work that we enjoyed and grew up doing. And so I got involved in the ag industry, working as an animal nutritionist, working with large-scale dairies, livestock operations, and agronomy, running an operation and doing those types of things. And it has been an interesting journey. Got basic in that, and we kept trying to stay connected to ag, and that was our way, was working in the industry. In '96, I had a unique opportunity to work with a company from Austria. And what is Austria doing in California was what my first thought was, but they had developed an in-field sensing system that allowed us to determine and predict disease and pest onset in grapes. And I started with them in '96, and my job was to figure out new applications and new technologies to come into play with it. And during that venture, or that journey, I guess you could say, I was fortunate to travel nationally and internationally to get familiar with other parts of kinds of agriculture and other production practices, and how do we solve some of the basic problems in ag with a mindset that, hey, I'd rather be home driving a tractor or working with the hogs. And so that it gave us a good foundation in helping the industry come alive with it. And part of the stuff that I was involved with took root in in-field sensing, above and below ground sensing, that today has evolved into large-scale networks across the world. And we were part of that. And that's being part of that change and that adoption within the industry is kind of what our driving factor was. And so that was my first foray into a startup. And I was the field guy. I helped teach farmers how to use technology. I taught why is technology important to the Cenex harvest states of the world? Why should they adopt it? Why is there a good business case for it? And that's kind of where we started working with. And you have to remember, '96, I had young kids at home and traveling, and part of the thing is that part of our value of a company is that we value our families. And I was exceptionally fortunate, again, to be able to bring those kids with me. And so I started training my employee group early on. They went through a 30-year interview process to find out how well they were going to work together and develop a mutual respect with it. And when we had the opportunity to take a technology that was severely missing in ag, was the ability to know in real time what the plant nutrient profile is so that we can prescribe what it is that plant needs in a real-time basis. And so this started out as a Purdue licensed technology, and over the last year, we have totally redesigned it. But the coolest part about it from my perspective is that 2 of my 4 children have come in to work with me. And there's an interesting dynamic of the changeover from the parent to a boss, and then having a mutual respect for each other. And it is very much in line with, I have learned to accept the phrase, shut the F up, I got this, and leave us alone. You hired us to do a job, let us do it. And that's been a fun part from my standpoint. And that's the type of culture that we want to, are instilling in our core group. And then as we grow, that's the way we're going to conduct ourselves. Everyone has a place at the table and a seat on the bus. And it's about finding out where that seat is and getting people to work within those ranges. But they're involved in the decisions and how the company's run and how the things are going with it. So that's why I'm doing what I'm doing, is that as you can tell, I've got a few years on me, and with the new generation coming in, they help us design and be ready for the next ag generation to help us get that. How do you do things? I don't like to Twitter, I don't like to tweet, and those are the things that they have to take care of. But that working with them has been really cool. And then on top of that, what we are bringing to market with our technology is the ability to scan a leaf in real time that works exceptionally well on first world agriculture, like the US. Crop consultants can go out, they can scan and determine what needs to be applied in this prescription, but also on a third world basis. They don't have access to laboratories. They don't have access to a lot of technologies and pieces that we can take for granted here. And this piece allows them to get that instant information, to allow them to make informed decisions that enhances their generational knowledge of farming for multiple generations in other parts of the world. And that's kind of what we're about. I don't know if I got any more time or that's good, but if anybody's got any questions, I guess we'll come later on, and hopefully I covered everything, but I appreciate your time and patience to listen to what we're rambling on about. So thank you.
Next up, we heard from Michael Lynch, co-founder of Chonex. Michael has worked most of his career developing solutions for rural communities, focusing on education, healthcare, and leadership development. Today, he'll be discussing Chonex, a nutrient recycling company founded to help make agriculture and animal production more sustainable. Let's listen in.
Hello, I'm Michael Lynch. I'm from Alabama, and I have a company called Chonex, and we're a soil health company. We partnered with a company in Jackson, Mississippi called Cal-Maine Foods. Cal-Maine is the world's largest egg producer. They produce about a fifth of all the eggs in the United States. They have 45 sites that average around 1 million hens at each site, and they produce about 80 tons of fresh manure a day. We developed a process to upcycle manure and create a microbial concentrate that you can put back into the soil. So the problem that farmers are facing now with their soil health is just the way we've been farming for the last 60 years is all the tillage, all the herbicides, fungicides, insecticides. We've really sterilized the soil, and we've really taken the microbes out of the soil. So the soil really should be this gigantic living organism that's constantly processing nutrients and recycling nutrients and making them available for plants. But we've really focused on the chemistry of farming for the last 60 years. And what we're trying to do is bring back the biology to farming. So the way our process works is we collect fresh manure under the layer house every day. Right now we have a small pilot that processes 1 ton of manure a day. But we go under with a orchard tractor, one of the low profile tractors to fit under. I have 72 inches to get under the chicken house. And we have a big opposing augers in a bucket. We have a 90 horsepower tractor. We go in, we'll collect about a ton of manure, and then we bring it back and we mix it with another waste product, yellow grease. It's basically processed cooking oil. The kitchens have to get rid of their fryers, their oil from frying every 2 weeks. And we put about 2% yellow grease with the chicken poop, and that puts all the carbohydrates and fats that our insect, the black soldier fly that we feed our poop to, needs. So there's an insect called the black soldier fly, and it's been around for over 60 million years. It was processed in dinosaur manure. If you've ever had an animal operation on your farm, you've more than likely seen a black soldier fly. They're native to Alabama. They're all across the U.S. And it's a really amazing insect. It allows us to take out all the pathogens in the manure, but preserve all the beneficial bacteria. So we'll feed the manure to the black soldier fly in these big 8-foot by 4-foot trays, and we put just enough. We put about 900,000 larvae per 1 ton of manure. And so in order to do that, we had to create a nursery system. So we get the flies to mate every day. We get them to lay their eggs in a certain area. We collect the eggs. We grow the larvae out 6 days, and then we put them into this manure. But that's where the magic happens, is that the larvae have these antimicrobial peptides and lauric acid in their gut. And so when they process the manure, they eliminate all the pathogens, but they preserve all the beneficial bacteria. So most people compost manure and think of it as NPK, but heat doesn't discriminate. Heat kills everything. We're able to get rid of just the bad stuff and preserve all the good stuff. So we have microbes in our product that'll fix nitrogen from the atmosphere and put it into the soil. They'll sequester carbon. They'll suppress nematodes. We can make the uptake of nutrients so much more efficient. We can suppress disease. We have really a bunch of beneficial microbes. And so we had to do a lot of DNA sequencing of this insect poop to really understand all the living organisms in the poop. And then we had to understand what conditions they thrive in. So we controlled the pH level and the temperatures that we dry our product at to select for the colonies of microbes that we know have the most benefit for plant soil health. And then we dry those, then we use a drying process at a certain temperature where we dry our product down to 10% moisture, and that makes all those living organisms go dormant. And that gives us a really long shelf life. We know over 2 years so far. And then we developed what we call a tea-brewing process. We partnered with Nutrien and Simplot, and we got some of their big 2,500-gallon tanks that they use for herbicides and liquid nitrogen. And we basically just take a $70 hot tub jacuzzi pump that makes it bubble. And it's a regular blower, and we're just taking air out of the atmosphere and blowing it into this tank that we fill up 2,500 gallons of water. And so we have a formula where 1 pound of our product, you multiply it by 25 gallons. So a 2,500 gallon tank, we're dropping a nylon bag with tiny perforated holes. And as soon as we put our product into this tank, all those microbes come back to life. And then what people think of manure, the NPK, is really the feedstock for all those living organisms. And so the organisms start eating all that food, and they'll multiply, or they'll double about every 20 minutes. So we brew the tea for 48 hours, and all those microbes are doubling. And after about 48 hours, we have about 500 million microbes per milliliter of all these amazing organisms that do all kinds of great stuff for soil. And then the farmer will come and back his spray rig up, and he'll load up his tank, and then he'll put about 10 gallons an acre right when they're planting. So right when the seed goes in, we want to put the microbes. So they'll go right to the seed. It's a carbon source, and then it has a systemic effect, and those microorganisms stay with that seed. And as the plant grows, allows it to build much thicker cell walls, really great root system, allows it to kind of meet its full potential and production. So what we're seeing is, especially in farms with degraded soil, we're seeing an increase in yields as much as 30%. We're able to do tank mixes, so when farmers put out their Roundup, they can mix our product with it. Our microbes will attach to the chemicals. They make all those pathways in the plant open up, and so the plant just takes up the chemicals or fertilizer so much more efficiently, so nothing's being wasted. And our plants mature significantly faster, and we're able to reduce chemicals and fertilizers by up to 50%. So we're really focused on increasing yields, reducing inputs, and because of the design of our process, we use a lot of low-budget agricultural equipment that kind of looks like a chicken farm, what we have, not a Tesla plant. We're able to sell our product to farmers for about $10 an acre. And so we have a lot of quality control that we do. We're able to sequence each batch, look at all the microbes in the batch. We test for fecal coliforms, pathogens in every batch, and we can ensure we have a very consistent product in each batch that we produce. And we've, sold our product kind of all over the market. We just partnered with the Farmers Business Network. We're working in 30 states right now. We're here in North Dakota. And we're getting as much field trial data as we can this year in as many regions, climates, crops. We've also partnered with a group here out of Fargo. There's a farmer near Bismarck named Gabe Brown. He has a company called Understanding Ag. They're really focused on regenerative agriculture and really focused on soil health. So we're doing a lot of work to show farmers how we can increase the biology in the soil and really make farming a lot more profitable than it's been for farmers for a long time. And so that's really our focus is transitioning away from chemicals, and not eliminating them, but using less chemicals, less inputs, and then getting increased yields and really just making farming more profitable. And so that's what we're up to at Chonex.
After the presentation, we jumped into a live Q&A session with the audience, joined by our host, Nathan Marcotte from the Grand Farm team. Let's listen in.
So maybe for both of you to kick us off, what is something that you're most proud of in the last year?
Surviving, I would think, would be the number one thing. It's like we had to adapt and overcome a lot of different things. It's like that's, with COVID and trying to adjust, getting work done, access to people and everything else. That sounds kind of quaint, but it's like we had to adapt a lot this year and keep our spirits high because we're through the transition of getting some stuff done. So I would say that's probably for this year. Yeah. Sanity, and it's like this literally is the first event that I've been at since March of 2020. Yeah. So we've been away. When you live in the middle of a cornfield, you don't get to see very many people. So
I would say we just closed a $6 million round. And that's allowing us to purchase 10.5 acres adjacent to where our pilot plant is. We spent all of COVID designing a modular facility that's very scalable. So exactly what we're building at 12 tons will be what our production facility looks like at 70 tons. And so we're just closing on the land right now. We should start construction in 75 days. Jason, who's with me, is our chief commercial officer, but really focused on building the infrastructure to start selling our product, which is why we're really excited to be here. And I love the idea of having a hub here in Fargo. I mean, we need to be in every ag community in the country, and to be able to start meeting farmers here and getting to know folks is, I think, something we're really excited about.
Well, fantastic. Now we'll go to the audience for any questions. Ruchi.
I have a question, Mike, for you.
Sure.
Can your, I know you have a chicken coop model. Can we replicate that with some other coops?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. The reason we chose layer hen. Yeah. No, so just we looked at all the animal poops when we did this. We chose layer manure because just the scale of the layer operations. I mean, they're so much bigger than anything else. Again, our average site's 80 tons a day. You can't get that from hogs or cattle or broiler chickens, but hogs actually have the most nutrient-rich manure and produce the best product, but it's just a little bit harder. Their manure comes out, it's really wet, and you have to use a water separator. And but yeah, the technology works. So we're really fortunate. We partnered with this amazing woman in California. Her name's Pam Marone. She had a company called Marone Bio. She's kind of like the Michael Jordan or Wayne Gretzky of bioagriculture. She sold her Marone Bio to Osprey last August for $500 million. Second company she sold for $500 million. She's a trustee at Cornell. She's the chair for the Foundation for Food and Agriculture. But she's a PhD with 500 patents. And so she came in and she's helping me go through the patent process of patenting all this technology right now. We're working with this woman named Cheryl Agris in New York, who's biochemist and focuses on bioag. So we think this is technology we could share with a wide range of folks with a wide range of manures. But we just think this is the lowest hanging fruit for us right now.
Thank you for that. And we'll go all the way on the left here for our next question.
Michael, I have a question
Sure.
regarding you guys, it's a lot of microbes and things putting in the soil. What kind of longevity does that have? Do you get any carryover?
Yeah, so we've only been testing for 2 years, but we partnered with a farmer in Lexington, Virginia. They've been on the same farm since the 1600s and have really degraded salts in the Shenandoah Valley. We were actually, when we got started, I didn't think that this was going to be a conventional ag product. So we really focused on marijuana in California. So Humboldt County is where, and our product has a bunch of, we're OMRI listed, we're an organic product, and we have antifungal properties, and we also have insecticide properties. So we were doing a bunch of work out in California, helping them prevent botrytis and white powdery mildew on their marijuana crops. And one of my friends said, hey, I got a friend in Virginia that has some soil health issues. Do you think we could run a trial? So we did 20 acres on corn, 20 acres on soybean, and 20 acres on hay. And he went from 20 tons an acre to 26 tons an acre on our 20-acre tract. The tractor operator thought it was a different variety of corn. And when we saw that, we made a major pivot. When he saw those results, he went from 3 20-acre plots to 850 acres this year. And what we saw is we did 1/3 of the farm, one application like we did the first year. And then we did a second application, tank mix with Roundup. And then we did, on the track that we had done the year before, we did 2 applications on. And we have pictures of the corn where you can see the control versus the one application, and it gets bigger. And then you get the second application with Roundup. And then you get to the track that we did last year with 2 applications on it, and it just gets better. So we're definitely seeing residual improvement. And for us, he doesn't plant cover crop. He tills everything, uses a lot of chemicals. And as long as farmers are farming like that, we'll be in business for a really long time.
Thank you. Let's jump all the way to the back. John.
John, do you have any plans to make your scanner not handheld, maybe on a tractor or drone, something like that?
I'll repeat the question here. Do you have plans to make your scanner not in a handheld model, like mounted on a tractor or something else?
The difference is that we're using that technology to move to that. The difference is that our handheld works with transmittance, which puts light through the leaf. And today's technology's reflectance is the only way you can collect from remote sensing. The reason we are using transmittance, it eliminates all the atmospheric conditions because light differences change the spectral signature of that leaf when you're trying to collect it. And our direction is that we are validating that we're looking at the right spectral signatures, and then how do we eliminate the atmospheric conditions so that we can do drone or remote sensing satellites and those types of things. So that's where we're going, but in order to do it right, we are making sure that we have the information correct and have enough data sets that says beyond a shadow of a doubt we can go remote sensed. But we're going to have to get there, but there's no data available today that allows us to do that. So yes, in time, and right now this gives us a lot of good databases we're working with.
Fantastic. We'll go right, second row there.
For both you guys, are there certain crops that you're seeing better opportunities or better uptake, whether it's the farmer or whether it's the crop reflecting better?
Okay, well, so we're working with corn, cotton, soybean, citrus groves. Citrus groves and all I guess orchards tend to have the worst soils in the country, and particularly down in South Florida where the orange groves are. The soil's so sandy and there's no carbon in there. So what we're doing is we're planting perennial crops all around the groves, and then we're applying our tea product and letting the cover crop hold the microbes in the soil. And we're seeing really good progress. There's a big issue in Florida called citrus greening, and we're really seeing the citrus market or the citrus crop really go in the tank. We've lost like 40% of our citrus crops that no one is really paying attention to. So that's a real interesting thing. Another real interesting that we're seeing is with peanuts is they're really likely to develop alpha toxins when it gets really wet. It's another fungus. And the antimicrobial peptides in our process that eliminate the pathogens are having the same effect on alpha toxins. And so we are in the process of, we're working with a group in Alabama called Hudson Alpha. Jim Hudson led the all the research on the human genome at Stanford, and then they moved to Alabama, and they mapped out 60% of the plant genomes in the world right now. But what we're looking at is extracting the antimicrobial peptides and lauric acid and developing a spray where we can spray peanuts and all other crops that get alpha toxins. And then, but for conventional ag, what we're really seeing is the ability to tank mix our product and reduce inputs, because people are just looking for a more profitable way to farm. And then all the regenerative ag markets that are kind of coming online right now, like Kellogg, General Mills, Nestle, they're all putting in policies right now where the farmers are going to have to use less chemicals and start using cover crops, to use less tillage. And that all goes into effect somewhere between 25 and 2030, depending on the company. And so we think, there's a broad application for what we're doing. And if you know anything about regenerative ag, one of the principles is putting microbes back in the soil through the use of, grazing animals. What the folks that are kind of in charge of that are saying, well, one application of our product basically gives you 5 to 7 years of grazing animals. And so we think this is a way to help farmers speed that up and make that transition. We also may be able to help organic farmers where there's used to be 7 years, now it's 3 years before you can certify your land as organic. By applying our product, we can help get rid of all the chemicals in the soil. The microbes will take care of those, and then maybe transition in 1 year and make that easier for farmers. So we're looking at specialty crops, regenerative farming, and organic farming for our applications.
Wow. Basically, yes, we are looking at different crops. We're working with corn primarily because that's where the initial research was. And, but we're looking at crops where, like not soybeans, but tomatoes, potatoes, sugar beets, hemp is another one. But a lot of the any crop that takes a high number of tissue samples traditionally is what we're doing, is because we can sample it and get results back 90% faster. And the cost just to get one sample in corn is $25, but in hemp it's $187 per sample. And we're able to do that at a much faster speed and exceptionally less cost. We're actually about 90% less cost to get that information to the grower, and we're able to do it immediately. So as we go through, we're starting with corn, but we're moving through the other higher value crops and crops that require a higher number of samplings on a per weekly basis. And that can go into greenhouses and those types of things. So most definitely, it's about market value of pricing. Like I said, what we're doing is we're providing basically 10,000 scans or samples for the cost of 500 right now on corn traditionally. So yes, and our values will get much better than that.
Well, thank you for that. And as we're coming close to the end of our time here, we always want to wrap on one final question. And that one final question is, what is one thing all of us in this audience can do as a community to support and energize both of your work? Michael, do you want to start?
You made me go first.
Sure. Well, I think if there are any farmers in the audience, we would love to send you our product and get it on your farms, let you see it firsthand, let you experience it. If anybody has any interest, I'd love to meet with you. That's really this whole next year, 2022, the way we've modeled out done all our finances. We're not expecting to make any money this year. And we just want to share our product with as many farmers as we can, any kind of farm leaders in this region that you could connect us to. We'd like to set up some trials for the next growth season and let people experience our product and see how it works for themselves, and hopefully develop some advocates for this and the way y'all farm up here in North Dakota. So that would be something we'd be really interested in.
I guess from my standpoint, like I said, we're not as far along as what he is, but we're looking for a couple different things. Number one is that we're growing and looking for a good CTO, looking for some other employees to work with, maybe even locate up here a little as a remote office. We're looking for partners, whether it be investors, whether it be partners who can use the systems that we're working with. We're doing a limited release this next year and being very selective about it. And so that's kind of where we're looking at is investors, looking for some good people that fit our culture, and then also people that can be using the system. That's where we're going to be on the Grand Farm this next year, I assume. Right, Jet? Right, John? Okay. And being able to show and demonstrate it this coming year here. So that's kind of where we're at with it. And get a beer sometime too. Be fun.
Well, fantastic. Let's give both of our presenters a big round of applause. Thank you to both of you.
That's all we have for this week's StartupBREW Fargo. Thanks for listening in. StartupBREW Fargo is energized by Emerging Prairie, an organization dedicated to connecting and celebrating the entrepreneurial ecosystem. We'd also like to thank the following sponsors for their support: Pro Resources, Brady Mertz, FMCVB, Office Sign Company, Fargo Parks, FM Area Foundation, Midco, and Fargo Brewing Company. See you next time.